What's up, troops? How's it going? So, some big news coming out of sort of the Ukraine and Russia war. It looks like we're starting to get a huge number of casualties, not just from the Russians or Ukrainians, but actually from the North Koreans. It's looking like it is now being confirmed that North Korean soldiers are being used in attacks and assaults alongside Russian counterparts. Here we go. So we've got North Koreans killed in Kursk as they enter Russia-Ukraine war in earnest. Ukraine targets Russia's mercenaries, saying there is no reason for Koreans to fight or die for Putin. North Korean soldiers began to go home in body bags over the weekend as they fought alongside Russians in large numbers for the first time. Today, we already have preliminary data that the Russians have begun to use North Korean soldiers in their assaults, a significant number of them. Ukrainian President Zelensky has said on Saturday. At one of the positions in the Kursk region, the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, DPRK, army soldiers were effectively covered with first-person view drones, FPV drones. The GUR said in a statement, estimating combined losses of Russians and North Koreans at around 200 on the first day. Apparently 8 of them were reportedly killed when North Koreans mistakenly opened fire on Chechen troops belonging to Ashmat Battalion. So I believe with that 8 troops, I think there's a massive language barrier. I cannot for any reason think of why North Korean soldiers would understand Russian or Ukrainian. They may be given some sort of cards just so they can sort of understand basic phrases or words, but they're not going to be fluent in Russian or Ukrainian, so they are not going to be able to sort of work effectively with the Russians, and there may be some confusion, especially with the sort of language of Russians, Ukrainian be very, very similar, depending on sort of where they come from and what area they come from with Ukraine and Russia. So that's going to be a massive issue. We've also got this being reported as well.
This is said to be North Korean troop fire in Kursk, dozens of figures scattering across the open ground, running, say the Ukrainians, back towards Russian lines.
So straight away, the issue you've got there is look at their camouflage. It's obviously winter time, it's snowing, it's pretty much white. Some of them may have sort of white camouflage covers for their helmets, but other than that, they're wearing the dark green brown uniform of either Korean or Russian uniform. I believe they are wearing Russian uniform. That's what they have been given. So straight away, I know not everyone has got the correct camouflage for when it comes to sort of this terrain, this environment, but they're going to stick out quite a bit.
Russian lines.
Дорогі українці, українки, сьогодні вже є попередні дані про те, що росіяни почали застосовувати в штурмах солдатів з Північної Кореї.
In his nightly address, Volodymyr Zelensky said there was a significant number of North Koreans deployed to Kursk Oblast. Up to 30 is said to have already been killed or wounded. And online, footage has appeared of what's said to be the bodies of dead DPRK soldiers laid out on the snowy ground. In August, Ukraine made a lightning cross-border assault. So it's looking like it is
getting confirmed that they are now actually actively involved in the war. They are part of the assaults. Obviously, that is blurred out for YouTube, but it is looking like they are starting to get fatalities, and they're starting to get quite a number of casualties as well.
500 square miles of Kursk Oblast. It was designed to pull Russian troops from other parts of the front line and provide Kyiv with leverage in any future negotiations that Donald Trump may try and enforce once he becomes president again in January. After the initial shock of the incursion, Russian forces have now retaken nearly half of it, with Vladimir Putin pushing his commanders to oust Ukrainian troops completely before Trump's return.
So the Ukrainians are struggling, and they've managed to then sort of lose half of it already. So they are struggling on the front line. They are doing these counterattacks. The counterattacks are offensive, but they just haven't got the manpower, the equipment, to be able to hold these lines. They just can't do it. So it's all good to take the ground, but you need to sort of maintain that ground, put in defensive line and then counter-offensive again, so you cannot continue to take ground. If you take ground and then lose it, you're wasting ammunition. You're going to be losing personnel, equipment, money. So it's sort of counterintuitive. You might as well just build a defensive line somewhere and hold that somewhere else instead of doing it. They are really struggling. And the Russians are really putting emphasis on to getting them back out of Russian territory And drawing in Russian troops is the goal, but ultimately they now have the backing of North Korea. It's estimated around 11,000 troops have been sent to Russia from North Korea, with possibly another few thousand on their way.
North Korea sent an estimated 11,000 troops to Kursk to help, but so far they've proved less than effective. According to the Institute for the Study of War, an influential US think tank, in one assault 200 Russian and North Korean troops were wiped out. Ukraine is making extensive use of attack drones to hunt down DPRK positions and chase down individual men once they're isolated from their units.
So obviously he's moving, trying to run and get away from this as best as he can. North Koreans haven't seen combat since the North Korea-South Korea war back in the 50s. So they've actually got no combat experience. And to be honest, they're very isolated, as we know. They've most probably not even seen any footage or been involved in any sort of drone warfare, been trained on it. So to them, it's completely new. They're just like, what the hell is this?
Online shows this North Korean soldier desperately trying to avoid being targeted. Nearby lie what appeared to be other dead or wounded soldiers. In another video, a buggy said to contain North Korean troops careers down a snowy track in Kursk after it's hit by a Ukrainian drone. Ukrainian intelligence says Pyongyang is now sending in reinforcements from its 94th Special Forces Brigade. It's thought Moscow wants to use North Korean troops to hold defensive. Just
look how much they stick out there walking across that open ground. Looks like they're preparing for some form of an attack. Spacings are pretty decent, the majority of it. They're patrolling along. But they're just coming into an open field. This is what I was on about with the camouflage. You can see how much they stick
lines,
out. So the open yard
freeing up
drones,
Russian brigades to fight elsewhere along the 600-mile front line. But the language barrier between Russian and North Korean troops has also proved a problem, one that's already cost lives. 8 Chechen Spetsnaz troops were killed after DPRK soldiers mistook them for Ukrainians and opened fire. With an army of 1.2 million men, North Korea has one of the largest militaries in the world, but most of its troops lack any battlefield experience, with Ukraine the first combat Pyongyang's forces have seen since the Korean War of the early 1950s. Simon Newton, BFBS Forces News.
It's not... Yeah, they've got 1.2 million personnel, but, do they have experience? No. Do they have the correct kit and equipment? No. Do they have the correct weapons? No. Do they have enough ammunition? Most probably not. Do they have enough food, water? Most probably not. You're basically just sending lambs to slaughter. You're just sending people to slaughter. But for what reason? I don't know. This is what North Korea getting out of this. That is the question. Because you are literally just sending them to Russia. But it'd be really interesting to know what sort of deal they've got on, because why would you send North Korean soldiers, troops to Russia, and to have this many fatalities already? It's not in Europe. They're not in Europe. It's nowhere near their borders. So it'd be very interested to know, what's going on here? Why have they been sent? Because it's all good having 1.2 million, but you can send out a 1.2 million personnel up against a couple of 100,000. But if they've got way more experience, better equipment, better training, better tactics, they're not going to last. They're not going to be effective. But what you will see is, I wouldn't say hopefully, but hopefully, yeah, North Korean troops will learn from these mistakes and they will get better. Depending on what side you're in and who you want to win. Ultimately, the war, we want it to end. You don't want any more troops to get injured or any fatalities. But will they learn from their mistakes? Will they start understanding the battlefield? Will they start learning the terrain better? This is the issues they're having. They don't know the terrain. They don't know the language. They don't. If they're using Russian equipment, it's not standard equipment to them. So they've got a whole host of issues and obstacles that they've got to overcome before they can start being effective. We don't know. They're going to start understanding drones better, how they work, how to move around them, what to do. Most of all, they've mostly been thrown into a battlefield, go and do an attack. Drones have come overhead and they're like, what the hell are these doing? What do we do? So they're the issues that they're struggling with. Ukraine, it's their territory, their terrain. They should be able to hopefully hold them off easily enough. so they don't remain effective. Whether they will remain in Russia, time will tell. Whether they will suffer too many casualties, Kim Jong-un might pull them out. We don't know. He might keep his troops in. He might just keep sending more. Like I said, we don't know what deal they've got between them. We don't know why North Korean troops are there. Maybe one day we'll find out, but we don't know. But that's what's going on at the minute. They've suffered huge casualties in the first few days of assault. They are now actively being used. We will stay up to date with this. We'll keep you updated and we will see how this will unfold. But please let us know in the comment section what your thoughts are on this. But thanks for watching and I'll see you soon. Here at Combat Ready HQ, we are all about challenging limits and embracing innovation. That's why I'm thrilled to introduce our sponsor DYU Cycle and their game-changing electric bikes, the C1 and the C6 Pro. These aren't just bikes, they're your gateway to a whole new riding experience. The DYU C1 is built for versatility with 26 times 2.5 inch all-terrain tyres. It confidently handles cobblestone streets, muddy paths and rainy conditions. Its removable battery gives you an impressive range of up to 65 kilometers with a top speed of 25 kilometers an hour. It's perfect for taking on urban adventures. Then there's the C6 Pro, the ultimate adventure companion. Designed for performance and comfort, it boasts a longer range of 75 kilometers, robust build quality and off-road capability. Whether you're hitting the trails or cruising along distances, this bike will have your back. And the great things about this, they come pretty much half assembled. You get a padlock and chain with it, and it comes with the battery charger and all the keys and accessories that you need. DYU bikes redefine convenience and versatility, making them perfect for riders of all levels. Want to commute smarter or explore further? These are the bikes for you. You can check out both bikes in the description below. There's also a discount code for you to use as well. These are great bikes if you just want to get out, explore and adventure, and they've got a whole range of different bikes, whether it's city, urban bikes or more rural adventures. Honestly, check them out in the description below.